Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to First and Ted. I, of course, am Ted, and this is Aaron from 49ers First Takes. And like I said, together we are First and Ted. Wednesday afternoons, you find us at 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern, coming to you live. In fact, I'm just sort of tweeting that out right now, so my apologies to try and multitask. But Aaron, it's been a week since we've talked. How have you been? What's on your mind? Anything in your craw? What's going on?
Just getting ready for some 49er preseason football, and mainly because I want to see what Trey Lance looks like. Personally, a lot of people, we were talking off stream, will automatically say I'm a Brock Purdy stan, but I'm 100% invested in to see what Trey Lance looks like. I know he's gonna be playing with some second team guys, so might not be the best looking thing, but I just want to see what he looks like. I want to see what Darnold looks like. I'd like to see some rookies here and there, some second year players, some players that have been talked about in the past that are now getting a chance to shine. I'm going to try to watch the game almost like an analyst or a reporter. It's preseason, so I'm not. I don't care if they win or lose. It doesn't. To me, it's getting out healthy and doing, getting a look at specific guys. As far as how I'm doing, I'm all right. I mean, I'm dealing with pain and whatnot, but other than that, doing pretty good.
Right on, right on. Yeah, I'm excited for preseason. I'm not gonna lie, I'm going through some serious withdrawals from training camp. As you know, I was able to hit 9 days, 8 of them sitting with Raj.
You
the
said
one
the same
day
thing last night. Yep.
Yeah, the one day Raj wasn't there, I got to sit with Rohan, and got to sit with Rohan most of the days too. And a lot of the top creators, whether it was Ryan Hensley or Jesse Naylor or Brian Rennick or Brad Graham, Steph Sanchez, Jordan Elliott, who just got promoted today to NBCS Bay Area from Niner Nation. So congratulations, Jordan, on your promotion. Well deserved. Yeah. I call him the river, like the River Jordan. And I said the river flows with appreciation. He wrote a nice appreciation piece as his last piece for Niner Nation. But I'm sure there's some I'm forgetting as well, too. But, it was a lot of fun. And, but, it was also great to have access to information that really no one else has. There's obviously people there in the stands, but even with content creators, not many of them made all 9 days like me. I think maybe Brad Graham might have been the only other one to do it. So like when I would say some things about Lance, people are like, well, who's your source? Or I'd say Purdy isn't looking ready. People would say, who's your source? Who's your source? And I'm like, I'm a source. Hello. Yeah. And I don't know if it came out before last show, but Ryan Hensley had me on his show about a week ago, Thursday. So I probably hadn't been on with you yet. But it was really great because Rob Guerrero was on there. And so, Ryan's like, hey, I want you to, pop out of camp. And I was like, really? I'm going to miss some 11-11s. So I guess I didn't see exactly all the 11-11s. There was one series that I missed for each QB. So of first, second, and third reps, about 15 minutes of it. But it was great because Rob really teed me up. He said, oh, hey, Ted, how come you're the only one saying that Purdy doesn't look like himself? I'm like, because he doesn't. Like, even on his best day, he's throwing two interceptable balls, throwing a ball in the dirt, getting sacked a bunch. He really, I don't think he threw a good deep ball the whole camp. Maybe there was one. There's one that was caught by Kittle, but that was not a good ball. It was underthrown. It should have been a TD. And so it's like, he just teed me up perfectly because within hours, somebody asked Kyle the same question. Maybe it was Grant. I don't know. But somebody asked Kyle, well, has Purdy looked like himself? And Kyle was like, well, no, but we're not worried. And it was just like, boom, scoop. Ted's the first one who said it. It was just like, I was like, I couldn't have been more happy. I could have been more happy. How I could have been more happy is if Purdy did look like himself. So that's one thing I want to make real clear. Because I'm saying these things, it doesn't mean these are things that I want. I'm a Purdy fan and I'm a Lance fan. I just prefer Lance's upside. I want all our QBs to be healthy. I want them all, ready to play as soon as possible. I just didn't see that from Purdy. Lance was the best QB in camp, especially if you look at Tuesday, which I missed because it was closed, one of the 2 closed practices of camp. Lance was 4 of 7 with 3 drop balls. So I titled this show, Lance Essentially Perfect on Tuesday. Because, essentially that's 7 for 7 in my mind if those guys are making the catches, because they don't call it a drop unless it's a very catchable ball, essentially.
Right.
So yeah, really excited for preseason too, because I really want to see if Lance can somehow unseat Purdy. I mean, because I'll tell you what, if Purdy keeps playing like he was playing in camp, we're in big trouble. He is not ready to start a game, and I'm not saying that I expected him to be, and that's fine. And I'm not saying he won't be by week 1, but if this continues, it's a real issue for the 49ers, because I don't know, I've gotten into some trouble saying that Purdy is mid, but god damn, he was mid last year. And now since the injury, he's looked like less than that. And people say, well, why do you say that? I say, because Jimmy G's below average and Purdy's a little bit better. And let me clarify too, like people say, well, he's a rookie, Mr. Irrelevant. And yeah, given that, it's incredible, amazing. He's great for a rookie. But if you're talking about all 32, or, there's more than 32 NFL QBs in the season, all the QBs from the 2022 season, Purdy, I don't have him much higher than mid, like maybe 14 to 18. I've seen someone rank him 24th. I thought that was harsh. But I think if you're going above 12, I think you're fooling yourself.
Yep. And I come in, like I keep saying, I like Purdy a lot. Not saying he's the quarterback for the next 10 years, but I was comfortable after last year ended and the whole surgery thing that he was going to be the guy, and they said he was the guy. But I watched all the reports. You were pretty honest for the most part. There were some people who don't usually report anything, who, when they were reporting, were very like, dude, I know you love. I was like, I tweeted, I was like, okay, I can tell you love Lance because the report is so, like, they took a shot at Purdy while they were making a report, like, most of his passes can't even blah blah blah. They can't even make it 10 yards or 15 yards. And I'm just like, oh, okay, here we go. But you and Rohan had some pretty fair observations through camp. I thought was nice. I never expected him to be ready, and this thought that he was going to be ready coming in late August and being ready for week 1 was pie in the sky. So, I hope he looks better than he did through training camp. I will say that he struggled. I mean, I want to say it's so hard to separate, like, how much is the defense, how much is Purdy, with any of the quarterbacks. It's like, how do you draw the line? How do you differentiate? When you were watching, did you try to differentiate what you were seeing from a quarterback might be struggling to maybe the defense made a good play? Like, how did you separate that?
Yeah, I mean, you could tell by the coverage where they open. You could tell, did the defense make a play? And people, that's an interesting point, because there are people who will say, well, of course, Lance looked better. He was playing against a lot of people like to say third stringers, but really Lance and Darnold split the second string reps most of the time the whole time when Purdy was there. And then when Purdy was out, Lance had first team reps one day, but most of the rest of the days, I think it was only 1 or 2 other days that Purdy was out. Then Lance took the first team. Lance and Darnold split the first team reps when Purdy was out. And so Lance only got to play with CMC one day. That was Saturday. And it was just a few reps. He wasn't in the whole time. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, you got to keep in mind that, and let me fix my mic here too. I hope it doesn't black out. So ultimately, you got to keep in mind that our defense is much deeper than our weapons or our O-line, especially when Kinlaw is balling out on the second team D.
Right.
And not to say that Armstead and Hargrave didn't, but let's face it, they don't have much to prove, right? They need to prove is that they can stay healthy. Whereas Kinlaw is really trying to make a name for himself. He's trying to get paid this season because we didn't get his 5th-year option. It's been showing. I mean, just kind of like how McGlinchey played last year in a contract year, you can see it with Kinlaw, this huge jump from anything we've ever seen from him. But also we had some O-linemen injured. Jaylon Moore was hurt, and so was John Feliciano, the center guard who we got from the Bills and Giants. So it was already a thing that defense was deeper than weapons and O-line, but then that just exacerbated it. Those 3 things. So and then people say, well, Purdy was going against the first team D. And I'll tell you what, folks, Purdy, most of his completions were against Ambry Thomas and AJ Parker And I can tell you that those two are closer to off the team than first team.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of propping up a Purdy going on out there in the media with Kyle, with John Lynch, with a lot of the national media, and it's frustrating to me because it's not what I saw when I was there. And like I said, I want Ulrich. What I want is Purdy to be great, as good as he can be, and I want Lance to just be a little bit better, or I want Lance to be as good as he can be and Purdy to just be a little bit better. And they're just pushing each other to be the best that each can be. I'm not rooting against either one of them. It just doesn't make any sense. And quite frankly, we're probably going to need all of them. None of our 4 QBs has played a full NFL season. So, there's a lot of, reasonable thought that we might need 2 or 3 QBs this season, especially, McKivitz started out well at right tackle and wasn't so great towards the end. And he wasn't facing Bosa, or like for week 1, he wasn't facing TJ Watt, who's a lot like Bosa, or Highsmith. We got nobody like Highsmith on the rest of our D line. So I got some concerns around whoever plays there. I think I've said that before, so I don't want to beat that one to death.
Yeah,
I'm trying to catch up here. Oh, real quick. I'm trying to catch up with all the comments. I'm going to try and show them all. I may not, read them all out, but I want to at least show them all so that people in Aaron's channel see ones from my channel, and people in my channel see ones from Aaron's. If you're in TED Talks Ball, please go like and subscribe with Aaron. Same thing if you're with Aaron, come like and subscribe with me. If you're on a browser, just open up 2 tabs. You can watch us both at the same time. That way we both, I can't believe it took me this long to figure this stuff out. Also, if you're on a phone, you can't split it, right? But you could use a tablet. If you have 2 devices, watch on 2 devices. We really appreciate it. It helps us out a lot with the view hours, which is ultimately like what the end goal is. Once you hit your subscriber sort of thresholds, then it's all about the views and view hours. So thanks everybody in advance for that. So go ahead, Aaron. I've been talking for a while. I'm just going to start clicking on some of these here to make sure we don't leave anybody out.
No, everything you say is fair. I'm looking at the
Fernando here.
What's that?
Fernando says, Aaron, which rookie are you looking forward to the most in preseason?
I want to look at I want to see Jair Brown, the safety. I want to take a good look at him. Raj said that D Winters looked really good towards the end of camp, so I would like to get a look at him. Look at the defensive line, man. Like the edge rushers outside of Bosa. Like, what do we got? Like, there's I have a lot of rooting interest in some players. Running back. Who's coming in after Christian McCaffrey? Is it Elijah Mitchell? Does he make even the 53? I think he does this year just based on what he's done in the past, but I feel like his time is limited because he can't stay healthy, and then he's getting pushed by guys like Ty Davis Price and JP Mason. So yeah, running back, defensive end, safety. I want to see Braden Willis. I heard he had a good camp, so I want to take a look at him because I think the Niners need another pass catcher, because the talk was Latu was a bad draft pick, and if you listen to John Chapman, he said he had one of the worst camps he's ever seen. Like, he had a bad camp, and so I heard the opposite about Braden Willis. So I want to see what Braden Willis can do. I want to see.
Yeah,
I'll be all over the joint. I'll be looking everywhere.
Yeah, he had 4 catches one day and led all weapons and catches one day. Another day he had 4 targets. Braden Willis played really well. Latu ran some good routes, but he had some issues with drops, especially on Tuesday, sadly. But you mentioned Jair Brown. He had a pick on Tuesday. But I think that was his first one at camp. I didn't see him get one, but he didn't get a ton of play. Obviously it's mostly Gibson and Huff in the first team. I'm excited to see for rookies. For me, I've been really excited about Braden Willis. I kind of thought that beforehand. I thought he might be better than Latu, and so far that's been true. See if I can come up with somebody interesting. I'll say Jameson, the cornerback out of Texas, has been playing well.
I knew very little about him.
Yeah, he's a kick returner or punt returner in addition to being a corner, and he did well in OTAs and mini camp, and he did well in camp, and like Womack did well too, obviously, because Womack was listed as CB3 behind Lenore. I guess that'd be CB4. But they had Ambry on the other side. I don't think Ambry Thomas is going to be in the top four.
Do you think Ambry Thomas is being used for publicity when they wanted to take videos of camp? And they're like, insert them.
Possibly. I mean,
you know what I mean? Like anytime you see camp highlights and you see a player doing really good, pay attention to the guy who he's smoking. Because if it's
Ambry, he was a human highlight reel in the wrong way. Yeah, Ambry and that AJ Parker, not good. But AJ Parker's not supposed to be a starter. Ambry is a 3rd round pick. AJ Parker's a guy off the street, so it's a little different. So Rick likes your hat for our go.
Thank you.
I should have coordinated better. I maybe should have gone with my black visor because that's kind of your more gray.
Like if I wear a black shirt or a white shirt, I'll wear this one, and then if I have a red shirt on, I wear the matching one. I don't know. Nice. You guys saw it last night. I'm a hat guy.
Woo, it's yellow.
No, it's definitely gold.
Oh.
It's just the camera.
There it goes. When you get really close, it flips.
Yeah, it looks like
farther away. I'm like,
color.
Bro, you Chiefs fan on me now here? What's going on?
No, I have a big head, guys and gals. Yeah, you guys know I have a big forehead. All right, so pause. So a way to combat that is to do this. See, everything works.
There you go. So, Dave, so we were talking about practice. Now I get it. It's just that it's the first time we've seen Lance with his new mechanics, and the first time we've seen him with CMC, and we barely saw him with Kittle before, and so it's just it's practice, but you can tell things in practice when he just looked like the best QB. Darnold had a lot of completions, but there's not much wow there. Lance had a lot of wow passes. And including quite a few that Purdy and Brendan Allen they don't have that club in their bag, if you will.
I just think, and I said this on a tweet. I tweeted another one. I said I might be quote unquote Purdy stan, but damn, can Lance freaking sling it? Like he's got supreme arm talent, like elite arm talent. Like you can be like, oh, I love Purdy and all that stuff, and still be like, admit what you see. You can't just sit there and be like, no, I don't see it. Like it's obvious when you watch these plays, it's effortlessly for him to throw the ball. Purdy, it's a very big windup for a little guy. So, but we'll see, man. Hey, listen, if it's meant to happen, Ted, and that's just the way things go. Who knows? Maybe. Listen, if Trey Lance gets his shot this year, he has to capitalize and never let it go and keep it and play well, because we drafted him for a reason. We had this vision that he could be the second coming or like the new age quarterback with all these weapons. I hope he takes advantage and runs with it. I hope we keep Purdy as a backup if that happens. But I'm rolling with who's ever starting. But I'm not going to tell you, like, if Trey Lance starts it, I'm going to boycott watching 49er games. Absolutely not. You know what I mean? That's why I'm a fence rider.
187 says Purdy has it. And, somebody was talking about him having, just almost everything you want in a QB. And I was like, yeah, the guy's like a mental giant instead of a gentle giant, right? I mean, he's incredible. He's smart. For all his shortcomings, what he's able to do, it's insane. It's just too bad he has, the limited arm, limited height, limited top speed that make it so difficult, I think, for him to be great. But we'll see. I mean, it's not impossible. It's definitely not impossible. And I would never rule it out. The one thing I would say, though, is the people comparing to Joe Montana the other day. I got into some beef on the timeline because I said, one is 4-0 in Super Bowls and the other one didn't finish the NFC champion. Can make it out of the NFC championship game. And people came at me for it. And I'm just like, look, I mean, I'm not doing it for reaction. I'm just saying these are facts. And if the facts trigger you, you might be a homer, I mean, that's just the way it goes. So, could Purdy be Montana? Yeah, he could someday. But I really don't think so. I mean, I think he could be really good. Montana was special.
Pump the brakes,
Montana
everybody.
came in on a bad team and turned it into a dynasty, you
Yep.
know?
And
And people say,
Montana
"Oh, it's
didn't
Bill
have the biggest
Walsh." Yeah,
arm, but
it was Bill
he
Walsh
has.
and Joe Montana together. But
Yep.
like, how many Hall of Fame coaches that didn't have a Hall of Fame QB, right? I mean, I think it's just like Gibbs. I think that's it. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't say it to be harsh. I don't say it to be mean. I say it because that's my opinion, and I'm sorry if people have a difference with it. But like, until I see something different, that's what I'm gonna say. And with the mid thing, like I said, I mean, that was before the injury, and since then he hasn't been mid. I hate to tell you, folks, he's been worse. So Rick Diaz says I'm ready for my team, 49ers guys. Thanks, Rick. Laura Cat in the house saying hi. Anyway, go ahead, Aaron. I'm going to just scroll through some of these here to see if we can't get caught up or closer to it. Rod Callie in the house. What's going
No,
on?
I'm good. I think we quarterbacked it out here.
Yeah, Dynamite Dave says, I hope Jackson pops this year. We got to have a second pass rush guy. Yeah, he was looking good, and then he's hurt now, so I don't think we'll see much of him in Vegas, whether it's the practices, scrimmage, or game. But we'll see. It's hard to tell in preseason with these injuries. They don't have to tell much. And Kyle, if he doesn't have to tell you, he's not going to tell you. Got to keep every advantage you can.
Which is
right?
weird because you see people that are 49er fans, they get all frustrated with Kyle being so secretive. It's like, he's been like this since essentially they took over the team, him and Lane.
Yeah, should not be a
why
surprise.
are you still mad? Like,
Yeah,
it's not their job to let us know everything.
No, they have to lie sometimes.
There's a bit of, it's called gamesmanship, man. Like,
Yep.
you got to have an advantage. If you just explain everything and let everybody know all your plans, then what's the point of having a game plan? Like,
Hey, look, guys, 4 aces. Oh, wait, you're not going to bet? What's going on? It's like, come on. Or, 4 deuces. Oh, come on. You're not going to buy my bluff? Come on. So, yeah, I mean, just like that. Jason says, I tried to make a 53-man roster. It was hard making quite a few cuts. Oh, I know a rookie that I want to see. Except I don't know if he's a rookie. I said it today. I saw Ryan Hensley post a 53-man roster, and I corrected him on O-line. I said, I think Leroy Watson will make the roster, who's been filling in for Jalen Moore. He's a converted tight end from UTSA Roadrunners, just like Burford. And I think they graduated the same class last year. So they're both rookies last year. And he was a tight end converted to tackle. And he's been playing pretty well from what I can gather, what I could see, and what I noticed, what I've heard. So that's one I'm excited about, who may not be a rookie. But I'm not real excited about Jalen Moore or Matt Pryor, our other options for swing tackle. So even if Jalen Moore gets healthy, which I think he will. It doesn't sound like it's serious. But,
yeah, I heard a lot of talk that the 49ers starting offensive line looked really good, but the depth behind it is super scary.
Yeah, well, one thing that was super scary was the centers. The backup centers had a lot of bad snaps, a ton of bad snaps.
It's funny that you and Raj must have been really looking at the same stuff, because that's exactly what he said last night. He's like, they could have.
Yeah, we were sitting next to each other, like I said, every day except for Saturday when he couldn't make it.
They would have kicked me out because I would have been screaming, to learn how to snap the blanking ball. I would have been like, all right, you're out of here.
Like center 101. Well, remember, it's the same thing with Brunskill last year when we were trying to get him and Brendel in there. And it's like Brunskill just could not get a good. I mean, he wasn't as bad as what we've seen in camp, but he definitely struggled with snapping the ball consistently. So some cuts, some things we might try to do is trade a few guys. There are some position groups I see that are deep enough that we could trade somebody and still have to make some cuts, hoping to get them on the practice squad. I think wide receiver, linebacker, wide receiver and linebacker are the two areas where I could see that possibly happening.
I think another place where they could make a trade is with Zane Gonzalez.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even think about it. It would be insane not to mention that.
Because the Cowboys are having, they've had almost, I was listening to Lockdown 49ers. They've had like 10 field goal misses in camp this year, at least. I think the Niners have had between 2 guys, 2, 1, 2, going once, going twice, 1, 2.
Well, they had Maher last year and had all those troubles, and then of course he got it together against us. Remember, he like missed a couple early, and then made every kick down the stretch.
Yeah,
Like,
but they still lost.
and they
So
made like 4 field goals. Oh no, it wasn't 4 because they did score a TD against us. I think in the divisional round. So I think it was like 2 or 3.
I know he
Have
missed
been
an
2
extra
field
point,
goals.
I think.
Yeah, they missed an extra point. Yeah, and then 2 field goals would make 12. There you go. Yeah. So there you have it.
Because the talk of right now of camp, one of the positive things that everybody can agree on is that, at least in practice, Nick Moody is like a powerhouse, man. I'm hearing he's hitting 60 yarders with his eyes closed, not literally, but uh, he had two of them in practice that were both. They said if there wasn't a wall, would have had some room to go. That's pretty awesome. Thank you, by the way, Laura, for the hat compliment. Yeah,
Sorry,
my
I
hats.
flashed by too
I've got
fast.
to get. I've got to get a like a either a you know like a shelf where it's like little cubbies, and maybe have it backlit, and then just put all my hats in there. Make
There
it
you
like
go.
sexy for the ladies. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, hey, Aaron. Any guesses on who 187's favorite QB is?
Sam Darnold. No.
Darnold. I thought I was gonna say Brandon Allen, but
Oh,
yeah,
okay. You like Purdy, buddy? Yeah, it's okay. I like Purdy too.
I
I
like
like
him
Purdy
too.
too. But people got to understand something here. I love Purdy, but there's always room for me to jump off of that if something happens to him and Trey Lance comes in and plays even better. You you can't. I don't understand people that almost sound like if you watch them on Twitter that they would rather not watch the 49ers and not cheer for them as their team because their quarterback, whether Trey Lance or Brock Purdy, isn't starting. That is ridiculous.
Ridiculous. I even rooted for
You
Jimmy freaking G. Come on.
I had to root for I hated Jimmy, okay? Not as a person, just as a quarterback. And because people always and people always gave him way too much credit. Like at least with Purdy, you see the moxie, you see the leadership. Like there's a reporting camp that he yelled at Danny Gray and told him like I guess Danny Gray ran the wrong route or did something, and he's this little guy, right? This little short guy, and he. That's the one thing I would love, and I don't know if it's Lance's personality, is just to be a little bit more fiery. You know what I mean? Ripping the
Absolutely.
guys. That's the only issue. Or
Maybe too nice. Nice, but maybe too
he's
nice.
so nice of a guy, and
Mhm.
like to me, I think sometimes when we're pissed off, we're more motivated. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Purdy has a little bit more of that leader mentality, and I think
Yep.
for now, it helps him with his lack of physical traits.
Yeah.
But we'll
Absolutely.
see. But
Absolutely.
this whole
Yep.
thing that you're not going to cheer for your team because your quarterback's not picked, stupid.
No, I agree. I said, I root for my QB every Sunday. The other 6 days of the week depends on how they did. So with Jimmy, I groused a lot the other 6 days. But not with Purdy. I was pretty happy with Purdy. Dynamite Dave says I have 20 hats. It's an addiction. Aaron, what's your lid count up to? I think I've got like, let's see,
I've got
one,
at
two,
least
three, four,
I've
five.
got at least 20.
I've got at least 20. In other words, don't press me, Ted. Um, I've got about 5 Niners visors. They're a lot harder to come by than hats. But in fact, I haven't been checking recently. So if anybody sees any cool Niner visors, shoot me a link, DM me or
If
whatever. Anyway, and or even just put it out there. And well, no, don't put it out on the timeline because then they'll all get bought out and I'll get aced. They sell out real quick. Probably this time of year till the end of the season is real tough to find them. But yeah, no, it's going to be interesting here with the Raiders. I've heard some people say like, oh, this is the time to really show what you can do, or somebody is saying, oh, I really want to see Purdy, be slap Garoppolo, and I'm like, well, don't you mean our defense is going to slap Jimmy and Purdy's
Purdy's
going to
not
shred the
actually,
Raiders?
yeah,
Be
Purdy can just do his best to shred their defense. But this
exactly,
whole dude, and first of all, they're scrimmages, dude. They're not real
yeah,
games. Like, come on, people.
yeah. Exactly. And it's not one quarterback against the other. It's, that quarterback against
I made the
RB.
comment that some people like literally have been losing their mind over this quarterback thing to where they get into conversations with themselves on Twitter. They're like tweeting something and then they're responding to their own tweet with some information that they got from somewhere. I'm like, dude, you guys, you seriously, like, go take a walk or something. Go touch grass. Like, this is getting out of hand. Like, they're so emotional about it, and I don't understand it. We have no control over it. If tomorrow Kyle comes out and says, "You know what? I changed my mind. Trey Lance is a starter." That's it. And we have to be okay with it. There's nothing we can do. What are we going to do? Protest? I don't think so. People just need to chill the hell out, man. It's not it's in the grand scheme of life, it's really not that important. So everybody chill out. I mean, we could be the Browns, okay? So, we could be the Cardinals this year.
Ooh, never know. Shout out to David McNiner in the house.
What's up, David?
Co-host
One of
on
my co-hosts
Mondays.
from Monday, Niners Coast to Coast.
There you go.
I love David.
Welcome. Thanks, David.
One of my old school, him and Brian Culp were two of my oldest subs from like about 3.5, 4 years ago. I never thought I'd have a show with them. It's pretty awesome. Then Ty Alston. Ty's a great guy too.
Randy has a good one here. To be fair, most backup OL are people. So I got into some trouble with a 49ers fan. I won't say her name, but she was like, you call people, busts and scrubs and da 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 da, and like call them names. And I'm like, no, it's just classifications. And she's like, well, would you say that to them in person? And I was like, it's not like I walk up and be like, hey, you're a bust, But like, if somebody pressed me and they said, what do you think of me? I'm going to tell them what I think. I'm like, these are all people just like us. They put their pants on one leg at a time. I've met plenty of more powerful people than football players. And I don't bow down or grovel to them. So I'm not going to grovel to a football player either. Like, it's okay to have an opinion and it's okay to state your opinion, and you shouldn't have to hide about it. I mean, as long as you're not totally disrespectful. And like, obviously what Grant did with Kinlaw was a little bit different of a situation, but because that got personal, I felt like. But I mean, I think, and people, she said, well, you wouldn't want people classifying you. And I'm like, if it's accurate, why would I mind? I mean, that's, it's just like, I'm a big believer, like the truth's going to come out. And the more we try and hide it or obscure it, is just time we spend wasting time. And I hate time wasters. So like, don't waste my time, and don't like speak for me if you don't know what I'm going to say, or if you're mischaracterizing me. And don't like say, it seems like you think this. It seems like you don't appreciate hard work, Ted, she says, because it takes such hard work. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I work hard and they work hard, and you got to have hard work and talent. And it sucks if you work hard and you don't make it. But, that's the facts. If you call everybody great, then calling someone great means nothing.
Yeah,
nothing.
You can't live in a world with rose-colored glasses. You got to live in reality. You can make comments about a player sucking. That doesn't make you not a fan. I hate that mentality where everything is got to be super positive. You can never point out the negative.
Yeah, if they work hard, you just have to say they're great because they worked hard. And it's just like,
people in real life work hard
fact.
and
That's not
and
reality.
are not millionaires.
Yeah.
So like that whole premise of, well, they work hard, so you got to be nice to them. No, if you're making freaking a ton of money every year and you're not performing, I'm not a Kinlaw guy. Okay, everybody knows it. My old NWO guys know it. I do not like Javon Kinlaw. I don't like him as a person, just based on that interaction. I know you people could say, well, Grant did this and that, but Grant's been doing that with everybody, so he's consistent. He calls out a lot of people. It's just that guy couldn't handle it. Simple as that. That's his style. That's his shtick. That's what makes him make buku bucks off of YouTube. So you can't really hate on it. Would I have done it? Probably not. But it's this whole thing where you're like, you got to be super nice to all the people on the team. That's ridiculous. Like, my whole thing is the people that are always criticizing Kyle Shanahan. That gets on my nerves a little bit, because it's like, unless there's a better option to replace him with, and I know that's kind of a weak argument, but unless there's a better option that you could bring in right now that'll put us over, the only coach I could see that would probably put the 49ers over the top if he came in here right now would probably be Andy Reid, because he would do something that was not we wouldn't see coming. He might make a move and put Trey as a starter and just say, screw it, this is what we're doing. But there's very few coaches that, we want to run Kyle out of town all the time. There's plenty of great coaches that never win Super Bowls that are beloved by their fan bases and they just never win. I'm not saying that you have to do that with him, but that gets on my nerves. But this whole thing where you got to have rose-colored glasses and think positive about the 49ers all the time, nah, not going to happen.
Somebody asked me about Kalia Davis. We haven't seen him much. He's been hurt. Real quick, Ryan from No Border Sports in the house. Saying, what up, everyone? Man? Welcome, Ryan. Everyone, make sure you check out his YouTube channel. He's doing great things over there. Great things. He's helped a lot of us creators out. So thank you again for all your help, Ryan. I'll never forget everything you've done, and I will do my best to pay it back any way I can. So let's see here. I mean, ultimately, you can't just say everyone's good or they just worked hard, so it's fine. She also was trying to say, like, I said Purdy played mostly bad and banged up D's, and she's like, every team has injuries. And I'm like, well, then why didn't we make the playoffs in 2020? She goes, oh, that was more than banged up. And I'm just like, look, it's like, so if every team has injuries, so a team being very banged up doesn't make any more difference of your evaluation of what your QB just did against them. To me, it all matters. And, if QB has a great game against a scrub defense, like I called the Cardinals a scrub defense week 18 because they had JJ Watt and like 10 scrubs. I'm sorry, Isaiah Simmons started the game, but he got injured early in the game. And they had like one safety who was like a starter from the beginning of the season. Everyone else was like third, fourth, fifth string. Nobody's. And JJ Watt retired after that game too. So it's not like, prime JJ Watt by any stretch of the imagination.
You gotta play who's in front of you. That's the one thing I'll say.
I get it. But you don't have to turn it into like.
At the same time, you have to give context to, like, if you want to break it down, nitty gritty style, and be like, all right, let's look at these teams that they did this to. You could say that the 49ers had an easy road to the NFC Championship or the NFC West many years back in the past, because the NFC West was always dog water. That's a true statement. The Patriots, let's be honest, for the whole time that Tom Brady was there, the AFC East sucked. They sucked. Every year, automatic 6 wins. People are like, no, that's not true. You're just hating on Brady. No, they're horrible.
They had the first round bye and number 1 seed every year because they play the AFC least.
And the worst part is that when there are people who are not even Tom Brady fans telling you that you're a hater, they're 49er fans. They're like, you're just a hater. I'm like, no, dude. Why can't I don't know, man.
There's so many people are just box score scouts. They don't watch the games.
Yeah.
If they do, they don't know what the hell they're watching. And they're like listening to somebody, and like one person, whatever they say, that's gospel, because they never lie and they never get anything wrong.
You watch it on ESPN. You could tell who watches games and who doesn't.
Yeah. And so it's like
the media is doing the same thing right now, where they're saying that Trey Lance had a bad camp. Like, where?
I roasted that guy.
I'm like,
I was like, where? Clearly you weren't there, and because Lance was the best, not the third word.
I heard Lance pretty much for the most part had the most even camp of everybody. He played well.
Lance and Darnold.
And that Purdy had his struggles. He
had struggles, and he did really well and move the ball drills. He had one move the ball drill. He moved it all the way down the field nicely. And he had one in red zone where he scored 3 TDs in a row. But like both the rest of those practices, he was, I'm not going to say dog do, but it was not good, folks. The rest of those passes in practice. And maybe it's just Purdy's bad at practice. Maybe he is really 100% back, and once he pops in the game, it'll be fine. But I'm telling you, what I saw in camp was not fine. And I hope he gets better, or just is just, like I said, a gamer. Like, that did happen some with Jimmy G. Diamond Dave says, us fans have a voice. We pay for ticks and spend our hardworking money. I'm going to call a player out if he is, if he or she.
Me and my had a huge argument about this. Remember that guy who got kicked out of that Knicks game because he told their owner to sell the team as he was walking through the tunnel?
Yeah.
And my nephew's like, he got what he deserved. And I'm like, what do you mean he got what he deserved? He's a paying ticket customer. You can say
Yeah.
whatever you want. I said, as long as you're not terroristic, it's not a terroristic threat,
Yeah.
or you're
Yep.
physically harming somebody.
Or you're saying
To kick them
fire
out.
or something to cause a
Yeah,
panic.
you're
Yeah.
you're gonna you're gonna get rid of somebody out of a fan out of the stands because he said words that you didn't
Yeah.
like.
Because he criticized you for being a bad owner, which is like fair.
The whole
Like,
part of a fanhood is to completely be bipolar. We're supposed to be bipolar, like Dynamite Dave. You spend money, you buy merch, you give all your emotional freaking level-headedness to a team. Hell yeah, you can say what's talk you want to say, as long as you're not getting personal, where you take things to the next level, where it gets weird and you start to sound like a stalker or a weirdo. Then that's one thing. But like if you're just keeping it on the field and you say a dude he sucks, he can't play, and you tweet it, and then maybe the athlete gets a hold of it and calls you out, like that's you're soft, dude. You got to be better than that. So no, I
I'll
agree.
take it a step further too, and I'll say, there's people out there that are like, "Oh, content creators think that they know better than Kyle Shanahan, and content creators are disagreeing with." And you know what? We don't get paid by the team, and they can't tell us what to say. So you should listen to content creators because we are unbiased. We are giving a pure opinion. There is no 49er, representative going, "Oh no, Ted, you can't say that.
Yeah, we're
Take
not
that
having a
back. Take
meeting with
that
the PR
down.
department
Pull
telling
that.
us
Pull
like,
that picture." Pull that video, that tweet is not favorable, pull it, change it, recant. I mean, we saw it with Bonte yesterday. He went on and he said that Purdy was mediocre. I'm like, I pulled the tweet and I'm like, I quote tweeted, I'm like, look, I'm not the only one saying he's mid. Next thing you know, he's got this tweet up there. Well, he did score 34 points. Maybe I was being a little too harsh or underrating what he did. And I'm just like, oh, Bonte, somebody got to him. Somebody came to him probably at 95.7 the game. They're just like, can't have
well,
you
I know
have your
95.
real take, Bonte. You gotta
Yep.
have this redacted take that here's your tweet to send out to say you're sorry.
That's why
So
KNBR became what I think is one of the reasons it's a lesser channel, is because especially with like guys like Murph and Mac, they're such homers, and I don't get the tough questions from them. I never see it. The one thing I'll say about Larry Krueger is if Larry was pissed off about something, he'd go in on somebody, and if they didn't like it, tough. Doesn't matter. That's your job as a personality on radio. Um, it's
Curtis, good
funny.
point. Ever watch Gruden's camp? Every guy was a HOFer. Yeah.
No,
It's like I mean, I'm gonna call someone out. It's like Larry with the rookies. Larry loves every rookie, like Kruger. I mean, he's like, oh, this. I mean, not everyone, but there's a lot that he likes, and it's like, I think if you're being honest, you got to say there's just a few rookies that are going to make it, and try and pick your few rather than sort of like, oh, I like everyone, and then like, oh, look, I said I liked them.
you know when you said when he was talked about maybe someone making you redact something or take it down. For anybody
Yeah.
who's a wrestling fan, there's a report back in the day when WWE released a game, and Triple H is the guy in the company who he's behind the scenes, but he was a wrestler. They were told by their PR department that they had to take down any clips that showed him in a way that he looked weak, or like not like they had a clips of the game or videos of the game, and he just happened to be in some of them where he was getting beaten up, and they were told by their PR department that they had to change that kind of stuff and all that kind of like footage and whatever, because it was a bad look for him, because he was like a COO and he was in charge of all that. So they had to redact all the videos of him looking in a precarious situation. And this is a video game, so that's pretty crazy.
There you go, no doubt. Pterodome has a good point. He says, I look at these guys like they're my own kids. To go pro, you're one of only 1,600 people on an 8 billion person planet to play this game. Respect it unless you were Hall of Fame. So he's saying if I was Hall of Fame, I could say scrubs or washed or bust or whatever. I can kind of see that. I think you're a little more respectful than me, Pterodome. Maybe I'm just more of a dick. But everybody has their different styles, and that's okay. I kind of I respect what you're saying a lot, and maybe I wish I was a little more like that. But I don't know. When I started this, people just said be you, and so this is me.
My real personality is that I
Yeah.
get frustrated with people, and sometimes I say that they're garbage or they suck or they're no good and they need to get off the field and retire. I come from a half Sicilian background where they're all a bunch of crazy soccer fans who used to flip the hell out watching soccer. So part of it is my genetics. I'm not saying it's a good trait to have, but it's my real personality. I'm an
Well,
emotional guy.
and that's a good point too, Aaron, because it's like, yeah, there's 1,600 NFL players and 8 billion, but come on, it's 1,600 out of 300 million, which is still huge math. But there's also basketball players, baseball players, hockey players, soccer players, cricket players. So they're not the only people that are sort of at the top of their physical game around the world. There's all kinds of other sports, bicycling, you name it. I mean, you just go down the list, all the Olympic sports. So yeah, I get your point, but it's not just like everybody's trying to play football either. So like, let's not, make that. But anyway, I respect that, and I don't know. Maybe I kind of wish I was more like that, but to this point, I'm not. Maybe when I meet more players, I'll change my tune. But for now, I'm going to say what I honestly think of their skill level vis-a-vis the other players. Bebop Jones in the house. Welcome, Bebop. Thanks for joining.
Wow.
Coming to us from Bethlehem, PA. And no one wanted Reed in Philly. That's how it goes. Yeah, I feel like Kyle could be Andy Reid 2.0. I feel like his legacy is really on the line here with this. Like, he really needs to get this right. Like, this is some things like people are like, well, Kyle will pick the right quarterback. And I'm like, well, Kyle hasn't picked the right quarterback. He passed on Mahomes for Cousins, didn't get Cousins. He passed on Brady for Jimmy after when Brady wanted to come retire here. Instead of the Bucks, he wanted to come here, and Kyle said, no, we're good with Jimmy. And
in a way, I'm glad he did, because that 2000 or that 2020
2020.
That was a bad squad.
Yeah, he would not have won in 2020, but 2021, I think we would have won with them. 2022, we might have won with them. I think at least one ring with Brady if he had come. Stafford wins a ring with the Rams. And even just last year, he had Purdy at QB3, and people were like, oh, well, Purdy got better during the season, Ted. He even said so. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's great, but we have no freaking baseline to go off of because Kyle never let Purdy play with the ones the entire offseason. So we don't know that he improved. Honestly, we don't. He might have been that good if he had just had the weapons back then. So I mean, I don't think that strongly. I think, I think it makes sense. He got better running the scout team. Once Lance went down and he was our second string QB and got more reps, I think it makes sense that he got better, but we just don't know because there's no baseline. And that frustrates me because, I mean, I think it's pretty easy to say Purdy was not our third best QB in 2022. I think he's better than Jimmy and probably better than that version of Lance to start the season anyway. So like that frustrates me that our third best, that we had to have two QBs injured to maybe have our best QB come in and play. Like, what if Jimmy never got injured?
We would never saw it.
We've never seen it. And like now we might be like letting Purdy go to another team.
But that was, and I hate to say that about Brady, but Brady, people are gonna be like, he's not Brady. I'm not saying he is. Just saying that situation, the starter was Drew Bledsoe, and he got hurt, and that was the only reason that Tom Brady came into that game. I think they were having a pretty decent year that year. I'm not sure. The one thing I think I can say, Ted, that I think, just from my perspective, I think you have a problem with people with this whole anointing somebody after 8 games, and you're not buying into it. You haven't seen enough yet. I 100% feel the same way. I'm just, I guess, a little bit more hopeful. I think maybe I'm trying to be more positive, but yeah, like when I hear you talk, I hear somebody who's like, he's sick of like people always being so absolute about their thoughts and decisions.
I don't hate Purdy. I hate the hyperbole around Purdy. He's
100%.
Brady. He's Brady. He's Montana. He's Mahomes.
Well, the same thing with Lance. People saying he's a bust. He's played 4 games in the National Football League.
Same thing.
You can't make that. Just like you can't say that Purdy's arrived after however many games he played. Both can exist in the same universe. Both of those statements. You can't say that he's a bust. There's just no way. Where? How? Proof? What proof? There's no proof. There's not enough body of work. It takes at least 3 years to find out if a quarterback's a bust in the NFL, and the kid's played 4 games. So if he gets his shot, I hope he does well. And I hope he shuts up a lot of people. I hope he shuts up me.
There you
and
go.
be like, you know what? I guess he really was that much better than Brock Purdy. But right now, as of today, as of 8/9/2023, Purdy's probably going to be the starting quarterback week 1 in Pittsburgh. So we're just going to have to roll with it. Hopefully he plays well. And that's it. Like there's nothing else like I said, nothing else we could really do. We can't change that for now.
There you go. Yeah. Had some comments here. Somebody was saying, "Oh, too many people act like Kyle is a QB genius. Far from it." Yeah, I think Kyle is
not.
a genius, but
I think he's
everything
a great
except for
coach.
QB,
Yeah,
everything but QB, he's a genius because we're dragging these QBs, mid or worse QBs to the NFC Championship game. But he needs to fix the QB position. And part of me wonders now, Aaron, I'm like on this side now too of like, does he even want a franchise QB? Because he passed on Aaron Rodgers, Brady, Mahomes. Like, does he even want that kind of guy? Or is it going to like steal too much of his precious spotlight? Is it going to steal his thunder? And does he just want a mid robot who does what he's told? And
to me, you think like, is that the way they want to build their team? Or did they want to have it to where you have a cheap quarterback on the books?
And you just always just drafting somebody cheap.
Yeah, and then you have and then you just build around it with a really good team.
I mean, there's some smarts to zigging when other people zag, right? When these teams are paying for a really expensive QB, they can't have a Fred, a Trent, a Bosa, a Kittle, a Debo, or they can't have all those in a CMC. There you can't. You got to X out at least a couple of them to have that franchise QB. So there's some wisdom to it, but like it's starting to look like the refs in the Super Bowl want the big guy to win. And so, like I said, I never want to get the calls, but also I don't want to get jammed by them either. So I guess if it has to be one or the other, I guess I'd rather get the calls, but that wouldn't feel right to me. But I mean, I'm getting so frustrated waiting for number 6. I'm starting to like sacrifice my morals a little bit to get that ring because it's coming up on 30 years.
That's developing ticks.
The other thing Kyle's not a genius with, at least unless TDP really keeps shining, which he really did in camp. TDP was great. Jordan Mason was great. But if TDP turns out when the hitting starts, he kind of shrivels back up again, then third round running backs is another thing where Kyle is not a genius. And it's funny, like people say, well, Kyle doesn't pay attention to Twitter, and it's like, oh yeah, did you listen to him when he called Jake Moody on draft day? Because he said, "Aren't you glad we didn't draft a running back on the third round?" And so he's clearly, even though he supposedly doesn't have an account on Twitter, he knows exactly what's going on there and what people are saying.
I think Kyle has a fake account that he has on Twitter.
He may not listen to me or you, Aaron, but I'm sure he does. But he may not. I'll just say, to be humble, I'll say he may not. But like, if we get enough people saying something, bet your ass he'll hear it. So
he's definitely aware of what some of the stuff Grant said because he's giving him the cold gaze.
Because Grant's right there in the pressers. But yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, he knows for sure. Bebop was going, "Ooh, Ted, LOL." Somebody said it looks like your blood pressure. Oh, Bebop too. Yeah. Blood pressure rising. When it says film doesn't lie. No, it doesn't. But like, we have no film of Lance with CMC, barely any with Kittle, and none with his new mechanics, at least not in games. Now we have a little bit. I at least got to see him complete a ball to CMC finally and have him in a few plays. Real quick, also, Salty Cyclist said he played basketball with Brady in high school in '94. Really cool. They won the tourney 1-0. Outstanding. My college roommate coached. It was a center at Sarah back in the '80s. And he coached Tom Brady around that time frame. It was like in that 93, 94, 95 time frame. I'm
trying to think what year Brady was.
And he was a freshman. He came home, and I'll never forget. He was like, "Dude, we've got this freshman. He can throw it like 50 yards on a rope. It's incredible." And, people say Brady doesn't have that good of an arm, but he actually did have a pretty good arm. It wasn't a cannon, but he was not, when people try and say, "Oh, well, Purdy's limited and Brady was limited," like, it's not the same. It's not the same.
No, folks. Brady didn't have what I would consider an elite arm, but he definitely had a top tier arm.
Yeah. Tickets don't come with stock. So Bebop saying even having ticket holders and buying the merch, I guess he is more on Team Terradome than Ted
Aaron.
and who is it, Dave?
We're
Dynamite
pissy.
Dave
We're
and
pissy.
Aaron. We're drawing up sides here, folks. It's like a
I'm never gonna not be that way.
PE class,
I
grade
don't
school
attack
PE
players.
class.
I don't attack players personally.
Who's going to get picked last? That's the question. You never want to be that guy. That's so embarrassing. Good looking out for the Niners giving us Jimmy G. AP. Oh, good luck with that, pal.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
I mean, how many interceptions has he thrown? And then, like, how many interceptable balls on top of that? But, you know,
7
best
in
of
2
luck.
days, and 3 more balls were interceptable, so it would have been like 10 picks in 2 practices.
Yeah, and like, they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to make the playoffs. Then we got Jimmy G. I'm like, not unless he plays defense, folks. Because Max Crosby's a real nice player, but after that, and I guess Marcus Peters, that corner from the Rams Ravens, he's not bad, but I mean he's not what he once was. He's not a premier corner anymore. And he always was like kind of like the ball hawk type to get burned type, kind of like Trayvon Diggs in Dallas a little bit. A lot of ball hawks are like that. 49ers 35, Dallas Cowboys 9, week 5, Sunday night 8. Xavier. That is bold. Xavier Mallara. Mark it down, folks. I would be shocked if we score 35, and I'd be shocked if the Cowboys only score 9. I've been saying all along this offseason, I got in trouble for this too, where I was saying, I had a tweet where I said, hey, if you're going to say we would have beat the Eagles if Purdy stayed healthy, then I'm going to say we might not even got there if Pollard stayed healthy. Because he is an explosive playmaker. And once he went down, all they had was CeeDee Lamb, and Dak had to press, and that's when he threw the 2 interceptions. And they're like, well, he only had these many stats before he went down. It's like, you don't understand. When you have a weapon like Pollard, who is, I mean, he's not CMC, but he's like CMC, especially catching the ball. There are a lot of similarities there in the receiving game. Then he takes attention from everybody else, and everybody else gets more open, and Dak doesn't have to press. And maybe the Cowboys win that game because he was out the whole second half. So I think the Cowboys are, and the Niners and the Eagles are the 3 best teams in the NFC. But and I was fading the Eagles for a minute, but then they just freaking signed Miles Jack and Zach Cunningham, linebackers. Like, that was one of my things. I'm like, we got Hargrave. I think he could be, Charles Haley 2.0. And, so that's huge. That's a loss for them and a gain for us. They lost all their middle linebackers, and they lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson off that D. I think there was more, but those are some of the real big notable ones. And then they got a couple decent-looking ones, linebackers, before the offseason started. But clearly, I'm guessing they weren't working out because they went ahead and signed, like I said, Miles Jack and Zach Cunningham. So I think I'm putting Eagles back ahead of the Cowboys. But for a minute there, I had the Cowboys maybe ahead of – I would say I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys were better than the Eagles because it's so little turnover. And what they did have, they got Gilmore at corner, who's real good, even though he's 33, and Brandon Cooks. So now you got Cooks, CeeDee Lamb, and Pollard as really good playmakers on that offense. And Dak, I don't like a lot, but he's close to top 10. I think he's probably closer to top 10 than Purdy. So,
I don't like Dak as much. I think Dak is a choke artist when it comes to playoff football.
There you go. I mean, he's choked against us twice.
He's just, to me, I mean, I don't think he's top 10 either. I think he's closer to where Purdy is. I think they're right in the same area. I think he started his career as that guy, but I think he's regressed. As far as it's weird because the Eagles had a really easy schedule last year, but the Cowboys whooped them. I think the one time they played him, right? If I was right.
Cowboys whooped him every time Dak's played, pretty much. Dak owns the Eagles. He has ownage on the Eagles like we have ownage on the Rams.
Right. And that NFC Championship game, I don't necessarily if he would have won it. I just think the game would have been a lot closer.
Yeah, that's what I say. 50-50, coin flip.
If it's going into the fourth quarter and we're down 3 points, 6 points, 10 points, there's a chance. I'm not going to say that we automatically win the game and that we score 50 points on them. People are so one way or the other with that whole situation. But and then Christopher Blankenship said that karma for the Cowboys radio, hoping that McCaffrey got hurt. Yeah, that was. They can eat a fat one, if you ask me. But
Dynamite Dave was saying if I'm going to any games, I usually go to at least 2 with my buddy who has season tickets. I was kind of thinking about Seahawks and Bengals. I really wanted to get to the Cowboys game, but it's week 5 and we're expecting my second son in mid September. So I
Oh
will
yeah.
probably be seeing a lot less of me around that time frame. And when you see me, I'll be having a lot less sleep. So you'll have to forgive me if I'm not quite as sharp as normal,
You
which
might be
is
more closer to
clearly not
space
that
cadet.
sharp to begin with. So, you know, it's yeah. But anyway, and then there's usually a luxury box situation that happens through my uncle once a season. And then actually, I met a guy. The guy I got my last season ticket or training camp ticket from training camp. He likes to take content creators to games, and he was saying I could go for face, and he provides food and alcohol, non-alcoholic drinks. So probably try and get to some with that gentleman as well too. We'll see. I don't know. It's kind of up in the air right now, and it would help if I was monetized and actually making some money on this. I could definitely get to more games, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm tracking well. I'm coming up on 500 subs. I crushed the 3,000 watch hours. So I was saying, I think kind of like Grant, I think I have a lot of hate watchers that they watch, but they don't subscribe. So if you know, go ahead and subscribe, folks. You want to keep hating on me? It helps if I can make some money doing it. That way I can keep doing this. So either way, you know, do it. Subscribe. And subscribe to Aaron. Like we said, if you got a browser, have both shows open at once. First, 49ers First Takes, the at's right there. That works on Twitter and YouTube for Aaron. And yeah. So let's see here. Hey, admitting is a first step, my peeps. Yeah, you can't fix a problem if you can't admit it's there. It's one of the things I said about Kyle a lot of times was like, I felt like he never admits problems. He started to. I mean, one time, a notable time, I think it was 2021. We were 3-5, and he came out and just said, "It's all my fault," or "It's my fault." And the team started winning, and I was like, "See, that's great leaders. They stand up to criticism and they duck praise, and like then the
I
troops
just love that
rally
Purdy
for 'em."
took the heat a lot of times, and like freaking Jimmy Garoppolo always deflected to the team.
Yeah, we need to do better. We need to do
Like, nah,
better,
homie, you
or
need to
actually
do better.
specifically throwing people under the bus too.
Yeah, I want to see. That's the you could say what you want anti Purdy, but at least the man would say like, yeah, I played like poop. I should have played better.
Paradigm's trying to say that Trey is bad. Trey is a bad pick so far, but it's TBD. And if he plays up to his potential, no one's going to care about those draft picks at all. So we'll see. We'll see. T-Dome.
And at this point, we're past the situation where those draft picks even mean anything. To be honest with you,
here's something that people say when I show like how Jimmy and Purdy. I got a tweet recently. You can find it on my timeline. It was when Bonte did his retraction. I quote tweeted it, and I was just basically like, Jimmy and Purdy were about the same. Purdy's 5-0, Jimmy's 4-0. Jimmy scored 6 less points, but he had 1.2 less turnovers forced by the D. Their stats were pretty remarkably the same for the 5 games that they played with CMC. And people say, well, Purdy was better in the playoffs, but Jimmy didn't have CMC in the playoffs. And somebody goes, well, Jimmy had Mostert in the playoffs. And I'm like, but Mostert hurts your passing and CMC helps your passing, right? I mean, Jimmy barely passed in the NFC Championship game because Mostert had a record 4 TDs and 220 rushing yards.
it was 2
so
games
it's a little
where
different.
he barely passed. He barely passed.
Mostert's great. Mostert helps you win for sure, but it doesn't help you look like a better QB when you're like basically on the bench because he's just running it down their throats. So it's a little bit different, folks. But that's the one thing I do say. Like when people say Jimmy looked worse in the playoffs. Also, all right, to be fair to Jimmy, I've thrown up a lot of stats saying, he's the worst fourth quarter QB ever in the playoffs. A lot of times we had leads in those fourth quarters. So, maybe Kyle took his foot off the gas a little bit too. I'll give Jimmy a little bit of, including that NFC Championship game, including the Cowboys game, including, pretty much all of them except for the Lambeau game. And we were ahead against the Vikings. We were ahead against the Rams. We beat. No, that wasn't the playoffs. That was anyway. Bottom line is Jimmy's playoff woes might be a little bit over exaggerated because of us strolling into the fourth quarter. Oh, Super Bowl. obviously we had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but you should be able to depend on the quarterback to get you through stuff.
Yeah, I'm not totally absolving him. I'm just saying why it might not look as worse as the stats. You know? Yeah. Well, there's some context. Lawsuit against Jed York just publicized alleged insider trading and security violation. Is that real? Ooh,
that's not a good.
Not when you're just about to get the Super Bowl.
Man, that's there goes the league. Now they're going to poop on us. We're going to have to take a look at that one.
Wow.
You're going to have to make us check Twitter at the end of this stream.
I trust Salty Cyclists. Are you checking or am I? I'll go through the
I'm checking right now. Let's go to search. We'll go to, what's his name? I always forget.
Jedediah.
Work. Chronicle exclusive. 2 shareholders lawsuits accuse 49ers CEO Jed York of insider trading and security violations in a case involving Chegg, a Santa Clara-based online educational company.
It's a book company. They're a client of mine as a tech recruiter. Chegg. Oh, man.
Just like his uncle. What the heck, man? Well, then he needs to step down if that's the case, and they got to get somebody else. I don't know who. Way to go.
Wow. That's some really bad news, folks.
Yeah.
Judd says if Trey was the best QB in camp, easy to say Trey was best, but you don't have the tape. Well, I was there. I watched it. I don't need tape. Tape is in my head. I have notes. And that was a funny thing. Somebody reported that Trey didn't have the best throw the other day.
And they weren't there.
Let's see. Trey was in. Mason run. Trey, throw to Ray. Trey, there was a false start. Like, how did somebody sub in for him in a 3-play series? There's no way. It doesn't happen like that. But, yeah, I don't have the tape, but I can tell you I was there. I saw a lot, and I was sitting with usually between 4 and 7 content creators that all know their stuff, even if you don't think I do. And, when you're in camp, it's really important to have a lot of sets of eyes because, there's no close up, there's no multiple camera angles, there's no slow-mo replay announcer. So and it happens really fast. It's not like 1 or 2 guys getting subbed out on a play or none. It's like, the whole O-line, the QB, all the weapons, all the D, it all happens all at once. And it's not like a 45-second play clock either. It's like happened 10 or 15 seconds. You barely have time to write down what happened. The next thing's happening. So if you're trying to tweet it out, you're going to miss something. That's people are like, why does everybody have different stats? Well, that's why, because first of all, we all have different views that everybody's looking at from a different perspective. And it's easy to make mistakes, especially if you're by yourself, if you're going solo on that. Or if you're new to it, if it's your first time like me.
That would be
it was definitely helpful to have people like Rohan with me, Raj with me, Jesse knew his stuff, I shouldn't say anybody didn't, but like those guys were extremely helpful for sure. John Chapman. Yeah. Breezy. I forgot to mention them earlier.
My man.
So great to meet those guys. Frick.
My man.
It was like great to see stuff. It was great to have access to this information that most people don't, but also it was just great to meet all these people that you've done shows with and get to shake their hand and, express gratitude for the help they've given and for the tickets. Some of them gave me tickets too. I mean, it was just, I only got 4 through the season ticket.
I heard that Laura Cat, I don't know if she gave some VIP tickets to, it might have been Bashar. Bashar got to meet he went there one day and he met
and I got to meet Bash that day, but we had to go have pizza afterwards because you can't mix VIP and GA. Like you don't park together, you don't sit together, and so we had to meet up after. But I met Laura Cat
is press, right? They're usually
press. We went to a place called Rosie's on the Alameda, and that was after I had been to a place called the Hashery, something or other, Saint something Hashery, with Chapman and Breezy, and Bash and Laura Cat met us there, and then I had pizza after that too. So 2 meals after practice. It was a good day. Well, general wisdom that took 4 games to figure out if a backup QB would regress. Yeah, I mean, it takes probably a little. Well, it's not just regressing; it's just DCs get the tape and they start to know your tendencies, and they game plan, to limit your strengths and attack your weaknesses.
Just
That's a lot
remember
of time.
how Kaepernick started, and then teams got a book on him.
That's part of it. They started spying him. That was a big thing. But also,
Baltimore Ravens gave the key to how to stop him, and teams from that point started doing the same thing. And the Niners were never able to counter that move because he wasn't able to read the field. He was a one read type of guy. So
yeah, he didn't like to study film. Apparently, it was sort of the what people said about him. But with Cap, there was a second thing going on too, though, right? It was the Balky effect, right? Remember, Balky and Jed York, or not Jed York, Balky and Harbaugh had their, differences, and Jed chose Balky, and Balky destroyed the team with his terrible picks. So, like, people saying Cap was no good after 2014, like the team was no good too. So I'm going to defend Cap a little bit too. Like, he was thrown to Jeremy Curley and God knows who. Like, it was not, Crabtree. Some people were knocking Crabtree earlier. Like, for a top 10 pick, sure, he did not live up to the billing, but he was still a very good receiver. So was Anquan Bolden. Vernon Davis. We had Delaney Walker. We had, obviously had Frank Gore. So many great weapons. And then Cap just had, dog water, especially by 2016. It was a team was a shell of itself. We're the worst roster in the NFL, arguably. You can't watch QB and progressions whether you hit correct read without tape stop talking nonsense. You can okay. All right. Well, also there's not a lot of read progressions going on in camp. It's more like, here's the guy you're supposed to throw to, and that's usually what it is. There's not a ton of multiple reads and rollouts and things like that.
In tape, there's no progressions in camp.
Yeah.
Camp is especially, here's your play, here's your read, hit your read.
Yeah.
This isn't a game. This isn't a game type setting. It's
completely. And I'm not saying you can't learn more from tape, because you do have the slow-mo and the replay and stuff. That's true. But like, to say like, oh, you didn't have tape, you didn't know what happened. I mean, I think there's layers to it, as our friend Rich Keltz. Oh, I met Rich Keltz on Saturday too. He showed up. He was a mystery. He told me he was coming. He's like, don't tell anybody. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Don't tell him. So like, I told some people a mystery guest was coming, thinking that like by the time I told them, he'd be like, okay, it's fine to tell him, once I told him who was going to be there. And then he's like, I'm just gonna, maybe not gonna be like serious about it. He came with some friends. He wasn't gonna like sit with creators and like be like intense about keeping track of things and stuff. And so he never really gave me the A-okay. And so like, I felt like, well, I didn't tell, because he asked me not to, but sort of had hoped that I would get the green light before the day of, but it worked out. He met everybody, so it was good.
That's awesome.
He said, no disrespect. So this is probably disrespectful. Let's not have revisionist history. Kyle inserted Trey Lance into the Green Bay game and the Detroit game, and Trey scored TDs. Yeah. So, and then the locker room revolted. And this is one reason why I said we shouldn't have had Jimmy G as the bridge QB. We should have had someone like Andy Dalton, who's probably not much worse, but a lot better as far as, you can swap them in.
Pro Jimmy.
Do what you want, Kyle. And then also when it comes time, he's easier to replace, a little easier for Lance to get in there full time when it comes to that time.
Yep.
It can come sooner against an Andy Dalton than a Jimmy G.
Yep.
I don't think Andy would have taught him any worse habits than Jimmy G did.
That people forget how much the locker room's influence. Talk to people. A content creator I know said he talked to some people at the Pro Bowl. He has connections, and he said that people were like, "Hey, listen, we love Trey, but like it's Jimmy, or not Jimmy, like Trey, or excuse me, Brock. It's the Brock show till further notice." Because a lot of these guys want to win now, and so they thought Jimmy was the best option for that. And so this whole like platooning thing just wasn't going. It wasn't driving with, the Trey Lances and the Kyle Juszczyks and the Mike McGlinchey's of the world. They wanted their boy in there, and Kyle even said he had like a maybe like a 10 or 14 player kind of council about what to do. If the players speak, what are you going to do? So, but
there you go. T-Dome says, all I'm saying is while the 49ers fan base is keeping up for half, the 49ers fan base is keeping up for Trey, as Kyle moved up and made the Trey Lance selection number 3 overall 3 years ago. Yeah, no, and it could end up being a mistake, but I don't believe so, and it certainly has not been determined as of yet, to be determined. Also, it's not really half the fan base, at least not in San Jose. The Mercury News did a poll. Kyle, 49ers Kyle, tweeted it, and I quote tweeted it so you can find it on my timeline. I said, how much does my vote for Lance count? Joking around like if it would change the numbers. But Purdy got 61%, Lance 16, Darnold 13, and Allen 8. So since before camp, it was about 50-50. Lance and Purdy, and it looks like Darnold pretty much cut Lance's number in half, and Purdy took a big lead over what that was anyway. So 61-16. Sorry, and I think they even had Allen on there. 61-16, 13, 8%. Brandon Allen, folks.
Jeez.
Almost 10%. Like clueless people out there. So anyway, Judd says, of course, he knows what's being said, but he isn't watching the PR team tell him what's being spoken about. I mean, I don't know. I mean, John Lynch had that tweet of Jimmy that he, by accident, did on the runway. So, John Lynch is on there for sure. I wouldn't be shocked if Kyle is. Beto in the house.
That was the most uncomfortable thing ever, is the fact that he liked a tweet that as Jimmy being left on the runway.
And I think it was in Tennessee, right? After we lost.
Yeah. That was the one where he oh my God. That was the pass down the sideline.
He's like, I was in church and I just hit it by accident. Like, you got you're tweeting in church, John?
No. He didn't hit it by accident.
That's a sin, brother. Woo. Better do some Hail Marys and pray on those rosary beads. Welcome, Beto. Thanks for joining. Beto has a great DM group that with a lot of Niners content creators. So he's been very helpful to all of us. Jimmy Perez says, Beto, what's up? Let's see if we can get something. See how you like Jimmy G after the season. Yeah, exactly. The Raiders fans are going to learn quickly that that's not good. Christopher saying facts. I'm just going to click through. Ted, the undercover Cowboys fans, LOL. I mean, there's some truth to that. Not anymore, but back in the day in 76, when I became a Niners fan, I was, 6 years old, and Niners didn't go to playoffs, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80. So, like, in those playoffs, I rooted for the Cowboys. My dad grew up in Dallas. He was a Cowboys fan growing up. And so I rooted for them to, beat the Denver Broncos. I was sad when they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And when we beat them with the catch, I was happy that we won, but I was like, would have been happier if it wasn't the Cowboys. I didn't learn to hate the Cowboys till the 90s, till Emmett, Troy, and Michael Irvin, the crack wagon, I called them. Anyway, they were terrible, and I've obviously hated them ever since.
They had such a small window, too. Like, they won, were really good, and then just kind of went back to being what they are right now. You know what I mean?
And they haven't been to an NFC championship since 96, which is crazy. When people call us the Cowboys, you throw that in their face. You just say, we've had 7 NFC championships and 2 Super Bowls. We didn't win them. We didn't get the rings. But, getting there, having playoff success counts. I'm sorry, it does. It's not everything. It's not our end goal. But, you can't win unless you get there. That's what I always say. So, anyway, bottom line. So there's some truth to that, Beto. Not anymore, though. I mean, Seahawks are my most hated team now. Cowboys are right up there. Eagles are right up there. Anyone could take the lead this season for sure, especially if the Seahawks don't do as well as they're supposed to. Cowboys are in trouble if they don't have Zach Martin taking care of. Yeah, I guess he's holding out. I guess that's the one thing. I said they haven't lost anybody, but it doesn't sound like he's going to play on his current contract. So, and crazy that he got the 99 in Madden and Trent Williams the 98. Snubbed.
That's okay. It's just a video game. I don't know why people get so mad about it. I actually bought Madden this year for the first time in about 6 years.
Judd says, "LOL, Miles Jack. What difference? Where do they trade Jack from? Or is he not very good? So it wasn't on the team. He was on the Jaguars for a while, and then I think he went somewhere else last year. And but he's a good fast linebacker. I mean, he's not upper echelon, but he's mid or better. I mean, I think he's good to very good. Brock Purdy will be better than Dak Prescott. Just watch. All right, I hope so. But just remember, Niners D should be better than Cowboys D. So first throwback. Okay, happy birthday. Yes, Beto's birthday today. Everybody, what? Oh, sorry, Beto, I'm lame. I saw it in the DM. I wished him a happy birthday in there, and then in the heat of the show.
Happy 21st birthday.
That's right.
Now you get to go drink and talk to all the girls at the bar.
You can have your first beer now, Beto. There we go. East Coast and love your content. Thanks for being honest. Thanks. That's my thing. Is like love me or hate me. I'm gonna be honest, and that's why Aaron and I get along. Aaron's the same way. There's no bullshit.
I don't always agree with Ted, but for some reason we get along, even though we don't always agree, because at the end we kind of agree. Like even though we kind of come at it from different angles,
we can at least see each other's reasons for it.
I always can see other people's argument. The only thing I hate is when people just make exact statements, no context, and don't have any backing to what they're trying to say. They're just like, no, he sucks. Okay, well, explain why he sucks. He just sucks.
Yeah.
Not a good enough argument. You got to give me something. You know what I mean? So,
Christopher, sorry, buddy. No, not the Niners. Even worse, the Eagles. They got Miles Jack and they got Zach Cunningham.
That's all right. We got green line. We got green.
No, I know we got better linebackers, but it was just nice when they had some questions there. Yeah, the Eagles. There we go. We got it answered. Terry says no. Balky was scum. Yeah, he was awful. Although
he was a bad dude.
Although the Jags are doing all right. But yeah, we should probably wrap things up here soon.
Yeah, this guy's got to go eat dinner.
Yeah, and dude, I gotta hit daddy duty in 5 minutes here. So
time to change it.
Let's just say thanks everybody who showed up. We had a killer audience today. I think it's probably our best ever, one of our best. And we really appreciate you. And come on back. We'll promise to keep putting on great shows. And I'll just say peace and go Niners.
See you, everybody.
What's going on coming up?
Saturday, me and Breezy. We just got to figure out.
I got tomorrow 2:45 Pacific. I've got Pete and I need to come up with a name for our show. I guess he's going by Pedro now. Pedro Burge and I have our 2:45 Pacific, 5:45 Eastern on Thursday, and then trying to figure out Bash because we're driving on Friday. So no Balling with Bash and Ted on Friday, but maybe we can squeeze something in tomorrow. Hopefully, knock on wood. Come on, Bash. Let's do it. Anyway, thanks, everybody. I'll just say peace and go Niners.
Bye, everyone.